In this IBM BPM tutorial, we will learn how to consume an external web service from BPM. Okay, so in the last tutorial, we saw like BPM works as a service provider. So we developed a service inside the BPM and we exposed that service as a web service to outside world. Now, what we are going to do? We are going to um, have BPM as a service consumer. So there will be an external system which will have some service, and that external system will expose that service as a web service and BPM is going to consume. So we are going to develop the service in BPM and we are going to test. So what are the steps are involved in this? The first thing is we need to create an integration service in BPM, and then in that integration service we will use a web service connector, and in that web service connector we will use WSDL URL which will be given to us from external web service. Okay, so if I draw this diagram over here, it will work like this. So suppose this is a BPM system and this is an external web service. Okay, so external web service. Okay, and this is the IBM BPM, and BPM wants to consume this external web service, so it will make a request and give a response back. So in this scenario BPM works as a service consumer and external web service works as a service provider. Okay, now since external web service works as service provider, so external web service has to give a WSDL file to BPM. Okay, this has to provide to BPM. Fine. Okay, so now we are going to develop this in BPM. Okay, so as we decided, the first step is to create an integration service. Okay, so come over here and create an integration service. Okay, before that I just want to show you what web service we are going to invoke. Okay, so we are going to invoke a calculator web service which is exposed by some third-party system in internet. Okay, so if you want to search this web service, it is readily available in internet. Go to Google and calculator web service. Okay, so this is the service which has 4 operations, and if you want to get a WSDL file, get a WSDL file from here. Okay, I will copy this URL, come here, and let's create the service calculator web service. Okay, fine. Since this web service has 4 operations, okay, so we need to create each integration service for each operation. Okay, fine. So here, once you create an integration service in the right hand side palette, you will see there are 2 integrations. One is the web service integration, other one is a Java integration. We need to drag and drop this web service integration and give us a calculator web service. Okay, fine. Select this to this and this one to this. Fine. Come over here. Go to implementation. Okay, and the next step is what you need to do. Select the connector, go to implementation, go over here, provide inline configuration. Here you can give your WSDL URL, paste URL over here, and also check clicking on the view whether you are able to see the WSDL file or not. So you are able to see. Okay, now the next step is click on the discover button, So it will discover all the operations. Here you can select the operation, which operation you want to call. So suppose I want to call the addition operation, select the addition operation, and here suppose each operation will have the input and output type. So you can click over here, generate types, and here you can make as a generate request response wrapper types. So what it will do, it will generate all the request and response. Okay, next and finish. Okay, fine. So this step is completed. The next step is I need to create the variables. So input variable for the service. So you can make as add input, and here you can make as add type. Okay, similar way you can create the output variable also. Okay, so add output. Okay, and what is the add response type? You can select the add response type. You can also select here the add response type, or if you see the add response, if you just want to see this response over there, you can also select output as an integer. Okay, because you are getting output in an integer form. In real world you might get the output in an XML form, so whatever form you are getting the output, just select over here. Okay, so first I will show you. When I select as integer, add output, fine. Now the next work is go to data mapping. What we need to do, we have created these variables, but these variables value I need to give it to the web service. Okay, so here you can see int a and int b, these values I need to assign with the input value. So add input int a, similar way over here add input int b, output which is a integer type, here I selected as a output, add output. Okay, that's done. Now suppose I want to test this service. What I need to do, I need to give some default value over here. Select here as default, give this value. So suppose here the value is 20, and here I am giving the value as 25. Okay, and save it. Click on the debug. You can see the input value as 25 and the input value as 20. Click on the step button, and here you can see add output, which is integer type, and you got the value as 45. Okay, so this is the way from a BPM you can consume an external web service. It's quite simple process. Suppose you got a another requirement. I will extend this session, and rather than testing from debugger, suppose I need to provide these two values from a form, input form. Okay, and I want to display that value in the input form. Okay, so in that case what we need to do, we already know the input form we can create using a human service. Okay, so go over here, user interface, heritage human service, and create a service called as a calculator service, human service, finish, and create a coach calculator service. Okay, same way, drag and drop, fine, and now create the variables. So I want to have two input variables, similar way, so you can have add input. Okay, and just select the variable as field, add, and output again you want as a add output. Suppose I made as a var and make as integer, because output there also is integer type. Fine. Now the next step is I need to draw this coach. So you will get the variables over here, You can just drag and drop your variables here. So I can just change the name, input first var, and this is the input second var. Fine. Go to diagram. Okay, after this, okay, I'm trying to end this service. Okay, in that case I will not be able to see the result. So what I need to do, just click here, take the OK button and go to calculator service. Okay, so now once you will click on the OK button, it is going to use the calculator service. So in that case also I will not get the output. Okay, so what I need to do basically over here, once you click on the OK, you have to call to the external web service. Okay, and then you have to get the value from there. So what you need to do, drag and drop your calculator web service over here, this OK button, this thing like this. Fine. Okay, now here in the coaches you got the input and output, and let's have the result variable. And I will just put the result like this, not in button, something different, output text. Okay, and I will do this mapping with the fine. Okay, now so what I did, I just created a coach, and that coach will send input values A and B, and now the output value which is coming from the external web service, I'm going to display in the coach itself here. That's what I did, the mapping of the output over here. Okay, fine. Now let me do one thing. The next job is, and whatever the variables you are assigning in this coach, these variables you have to also send to the external service. So for that you need to do the data mapping, and for using the data mapping here, add input. Okay, and here fine. Okay, now everything is done. We created a human service, and in that human service we created the input variable, one first and second variable. Okay, and then I will click on the OK button, and I should be getting the output in this output text. Okay, fine. So let's run this program. Okay, so we got this. First let me give us a 54, and then let's give the 6. So I should be getting in the output text as a 60. Click on the OK button. Oh, okay, why the output hasn't come as a 60? Because the output you are putting in the OK button. Okay, so what you need to do, put it here. 54, 6, click on the OK, and now you can get the 60. So what's happening, when you are sending the request, it goes to the integration service. Integration service connects to the external web service, and from the external web service you get the result. Okay, so in this tutorial we understood how a BPM consume an external web service. It's quite easy process. What you need to do, just create the integration service, drag and drop the web service integration, and in the web service integration go to implementation, give the URL of the external web service over here, click on the discover. It will discover all the operations. Whatever the operation you want to have, that operation you need to select over here. Then click on the generate types. It will generate your input and output request type. Next step is to create the variables. Once you have created the variable, you have to assign the variable over here. Now your integration service is done. You can test, and here what we did, we tried to provide these inputs from some external from some human service. So for that we created a separate human service here. The name of the human service was calculator human service. Okay, thank you.